Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy
Good
Money
morning.
Mindset with Dr. Money and Story Genius. Hey, lady,
Hi, how are you?
I'm fabulous. You're looking all lit up, so you must be ready to knock them out today.
I am ready to get in here, and I got a board retreat that I'm doing today, and then tomorrow I have another retreat that I'm doing and teaching. So I'm busy, 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 but that's what we do so that we can be
Exactly.
in Montego Bay having fun.
Look, still trying to catch up on homework, but I'm not going to even tell on myself anymore.
Because I'll be checking in on that. I will be checking in.
But look what I found today.
Oh, you got my shirt on. I plan on wearing it on the weekend.
Fantastic. So listen, I know you only have a couple seconds. Today is our Q&A day. Why don't you join in and say what you want to say so that then you can go on and drop some knowledge on the other folks.
I sent you some of the questions that have been coming up, and I think you will have those questions totally under control and take care of them. But there was a question. Now I'm trying to think what the questions were because I don't have them up. Do you have the questions?
I do.
What was the last question?
Well, the last one is a great one because it's saying, are you just saying think about money and it'll magically appear?
Okay. So that was one I wanted to talk about. And I hope you'll get into talking about the science of money a little bit more with Dr. Waddle's book. And also that book, The Secret, and so many other books that help people understand about manifestation. Manifestation does not mean things magically appear. However, as we continue to have a positive mindset, things absolutely start to attract to you. The more you have a positive mindset, the more you call things into existence, the more they'll come your way. And guess what? The things that you don't need are not going to come your way. They're going to be blocked because of what you're manifesting. So you may think you need something, and that's not what you really need. And that is going to be the power of how the manifestation works and how the universe or how God works in your favor. And I just want everybody to remember that it's working in your favor. There's enough for everyone. There is no limitations. So remember that and stay true to who you are and listen to Dr. Money today because she's going to answer some other really good questions. She'll probably only get to continue the one that I just finished because it's a really great question.
Oh, not only is it a great question, it's like it was the one question that I said, this is really what we need Story Genius to answer this question because I have something to add to it. But it's like, I didn't even get to tell you that you would go right there. That question. So perfect. Well, have a fantastic training this weekend.
Thank you.
I'll see you Monday morning.
Have a great Friday, everybody. See you Monday. And we've got some great guests for next week.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, so now we're back with the questions. Yes, Story Genius is out there dropping some knowledge on some others today. So you get to have Dr. Money all day. How about that? And so she's right that when you think about what it is you're looking to manifest, a lot of times people say, that's hokey. It doesn't make any sense. Why is it that, or how is it that thinking is going to contribute? And so I have referenced The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Waddle. It's classic. It was written back in the 1800s. And in chapter 4, he talks about, which chapter 4 says, the first principle in the science of getting rich. Thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches from the formless substance, basically the stuff that all things are made of. But later on in the chapter, what he says is when a person has a thought form, he takes material from the form of nature and makes an image of the form which is in his mind. So what happens is when you get an idea, then you begin to source those resources necessary to bring that idea that started off in your mind into its physical form. So no, you don't just sit there and it pops up. There are principles. You've heard the biblical principles that says ask, seek, find. Those are all action words, which that should give you some idea that action, you're taking action. You're not just sitting there, but that the importance of being able to sit there and to visualize, because without a vision, what are you going to create? And so there's also, we've heard the saying, without vision, the people will perish. And it's true, because if you can't envision where you're going, what you're doing, what you need, then you're standing still. You have no ability to determine what the next appropriate step might be, should be, could be, would be. How else do you come up with those actions? So I'm so grateful that we started the show to bring to manifestation the results of that vision. That was something that, it was interesting as a young kid. That was probably one of the gifts that my mother gave me very early on. It's interesting when we talk about our lives and our journey, and you come to a point in your life and why some things that you thought were harsh, were hard, maybe you didn't understand. Those were the things that were necessary to help you become who you are destined to be. And so we don't come fully formed. Think about this. We start in the beginning as just a little tiny set of cells that connect and begin to take shape to form this human being. But it doesn't happen instantly. It happens over a period of time. In the beginning, you're not even, sometimes, unless you're having bad morning sickness, you might not even always know exactly when it all connected and happened. And then suddenly you start feeling something. And as you progress along the pregnancy, you begin to realize there really is this baby that's developing in the womb. Well, my grandmother and I used to have some conversations as a young person. And so she used to always say that a woman's womb is a sacred place, and that when a woman is with child, whatever she experiences is what's going to mark. And so everything that the baby is experiencing is through your lens, through that connection. So I decided to take to test and to see. At least I wanted to take the risk on the side of maybe I can influence the baby. So if I could influence the baby, what baby would I want to create? So when I was pregnant, I would have my Sony Walkman with a cassette tape, and I would put the earphones on my belly to play for the baby. And so I would change up. So I was listening to books on tape. I was listening to different music. Like his brain was being filled with everything that I thought he needed to have in there. It's like I'm concocting the perfect little person. And even I read my business newspapers and all the finance stuff. I started reading everything aloud so that he could hear my voice on a regular basis. And that just kind of infused him. Well, I kid you not, that young man is now 23 years wonderful. And when I have just emerged as, we have pictures of him 5 hours old, and he's already in like the Malcolm X famous pose, like he's, what are you contemplating? Really? 5 hours? And you already contemplating making decisions? Yes. Blessed with a photographic memory, multi-talented, brilliant thinker, creative, artist, musician, producer. I mean, heart of gold, cares about humanity. cares about people, very present to people, and able to engage and enroll in meaningful conversation and dialogue. So when I think about, my experiments, I feel confident that I put a bunch in there and I was willing to have a leap of faith because I wasn't 100% certain what the outcome would be. And so I would say that if you take that same mentality into attempting to manifest money, and oftentimes, I think where people get tripped up is it's not even that you're trying to manifest the money as much as you want to experience the things that money allows you to experience. And I believe that when you take it in that context, that's actually pretty helpful because those are tools and resources. And so when you demystify how do you get tools and resources, it's not always the same way. Earlier in the week, Story Genius, Dr. Thyonne told a story about a good friend of hers who was like a brother in love, and how he decided that he wanted to manifest things. In particular, he wanted to manifest a nice car, but he didn't want to pay for it. And so in thinking about, well, how can I manifest a nice car? He thought about what were his talents. And so he was a travel writer. So he was able to start giving auto reviews. And then that allowed him to get a car. And then he decided that he wanted to compare and contrast. So he would get a new 2 cars every week to drive and compare and contrast. And so that's a complete example of taking your imagination and using your imagination. When an idea pops in your head, don't start getting into the details of the how. So I'm talking to a business owner, and I want to understand where you are right in this very moment. So I have this tool that I use, which is called a SWOT. It's a situational analysis. What's happening right at this very moment? Let's take a pulse. Then we're going to look internally. What are your strengths and weaknesses? Externally. When I have this foundation, then I'm able to ask this question. I know now where you are exactly. I am clear. Where do you want to go? And people say, well, but no, I didn't ask you to answer how. I asked you to only tell me where. If you tell me where you want to go, I will deliver the how, right? That is the gift that I have been given. And so we all, when we are connected to source, are using the gifts that helps to manifest whatever it is the reality is that the person to work, have all the answers. But the sooner you start to identify what's in your mind, then all of the other tools and resources will come together to assist you in bringing that manifestation to life. That's how it happens. So anyway, so that was kind of a little bit of a long story, but I'll now jump to the next question. The first question was, what if you are unemployed without income? How do you create a mindset when you feel like you're in lack? You're lacking money. Okay. So that's a very great question, and I'm so glad that that one was presented. I shared a little bit about how if you take that personal inventory and you think about what are the things that you do, that you love to do, and when you're doing them, they don't feel like work to you. But there's things, or your approach to doing things. It could just think about your day-to-day life. What's happening in your life normally? And how do you respond to different things? What are the things that when you're in your family or around your peer group, they're like, oh, we're going to give that to you because, yeah, you love that. You know, our friends, we have different things. Like somebody wants to do something. It's like, yeah, if that needs to be done, we're going to give that. That's her assignment. I do. So my friends, they're the beauty. They handle the beauty. So God gave me all these talents, but the beauty wasn't one of them. And I'm not happy for that because I am business, the brains, right? Around the business. How do we monetize? How do we create something that's going to contribute in a meaningful way? And therefore, how you monetize that. And so I don't stress about the fact that I'm not the beauty thing. They are. I don't need to be. That God gave them that assignment. So it wasn't meant for me to have everything to be an island. And so when you think about these problems that you're solving or these things that you do well, now you switch the lens on if it's a problem. And then the question becomes, are there other people that have that same problem? You know, when we talk about innovation, how do we come up with a new idea for a new possible business? I'll tell people to just make a list of what you do every day for a week. And then go back and think about, was there anything along the way that you said, dang, that could have been done better? That could have been faster. That could have been a little bit different. Something that kind of bubbles up, you know, took too long to get something, anything. Think about what you experienced. And then you wonder, okay, is there anybody else that has that same problem? Do they see this particular obstacle as something that they believe it comes up enough that it would be great if somebody could solve the problem, right? So then you try to identify, is there a way to solve that particular problem? And is there enough people who would be interested in having that particular problem solved? And there's two things that you want to distinguish in that question. Because there are people sometimes that care, but then there's another set of people that pay. And so you want to make sure that when you're kind of surveying these people to find out, is this problem something that's worth solving? You want to make sure that you have more people who believe that it's something they would pay to have solved than that they just care about it being solved, okay? So you want to distinguish that. And then once you begin to understand that, then you begin to see opportunities. And so a little trick when you are out of work and you're trying to get some ideas about what might my next possibility be, go back and do a personal assessment and think about the things that you do really well. The things that you do really well, not the job that you have. The that you're naturally gifted at doing very well. And then you want to begin to see what are the other places where those types of things are valued. Because it might not even be in the job that you had. It might be that those things are valued in another context that you hadn't even considered. But by considering, you can begin to explore some of the people in the industry who have become masters of doing these types of things. And then you want to see if they have any blogs or any information that you can follow so that you can begin to understand. You're going to basically do an you. That effort will reveal so much for you that it's going to begin to create a state change for you. And as soon as you start to move into a state change where you're not desperately seeking money, then you begin to move yourself into a place where you can now attract money. Because you have to remember that what you focus on is what you are attracting. So if you're focused on I'm unemployed, it's very difficult for me to take care of myself, I'm stressing about that, then that's what you're unfortunately bringing more of, is more stress and more things to be concerned about. And so you have to sometimes even set yourself up, especially when the dollars are limited, that you have to create tricks with your mind. So when you receive your money, you take a moment and you bless and are thankful for that money that you have. And then you want to get yourself in a very, very happy state before you deal with any bills or expenses. And what you want to do is take each bill that you believe you have and put a 1 in front of the number and put that as your list of things that you received. So you want to start planting the seed in your mind that you've received more than you are spending. And so that begins to create space for abundance, because now you're saying, hey, there's more. I have more capacity than I realized. And so I welcome that capacity to be filled with what I've imagined are the additional resources that I need to accomplish that particular goal or outcome. So that's going to, again, help you. And then when you're empowered with, now you've changed your state, when you begin to have a conversation with someone, you're able to have a conversation and you never know what you learn. So don't be afraid to ask someone. Now that you've done this secondary research, reach out and ask to do an informational interview. A lot of times, your initiative to get an informational interview completed with someone who you think is high-ranking, highly placed, a lot of times that puts you right in front of the pack in terms of opportunities. Because what every leader loves is someone to show initiative. We want you to come up with your own path. We want you to look at things differently. One of the major opportunities in organizations today, they're not looking for the same status quo in terms of groupthink or the same old rehash ideas that have been hashed around or passed around the organization. They're looking for innovators. So if you just experience in a day work or living environment, are there any things that you see that you could do different? You can do better. You can innovate. Are there new innovations that you hadn't thought about yet that you're inspired to create? Hey, shout out to Melanie. Yes, gratitude is key to shifting your mindset. Yes, that's exactly it. And so that's, as you begin to realize this is taking more time to be, which was uniquely crafted, just as individual as your fingerprints. And believe it or not, that brain is meant for more than just sitting on that hit on your neck. It's meant for connecting with your source. Because believe it or not, if you were not blessed to come early, some people, you get it differently at different stages of your life. It may have been because the elders helped to plant that. The reason I guess my grandmother was so determined about this womb experience is, funny story about me was my mother was pregnant with me in high school, her senior year of high school. But my grandmother declared and that there was going to be movies made about my life. My story was going to be important. And so because she had this vision, she told my dad's mom that I needed to be born in a private hospital, because in her mind, there was something about the entire process of my birth that had to be in a certain context, I guess, to fuel my growth development, whatever it was. Women were having babies at home. And so to go to a hospital, that was already a step up. Now you're saying, no, we got to step up another step so she can have a private doctor in a private hospital. Like, why? That seems extra. So my grandmother, undetermined, she cashed in some of her life policies to get the funds to make sure that what she envisioned was my reality. Now, you can imagine the rest of my cousins. They're a little bit irritated by who is this, special baby. And so the family joke became that they brought the wrong baby home from the hospital because I was so different. I was very different from the beginning. My vocabulary was different. The things that I experienced were different. The things that I was interested in were different. I played as a kid. I started playing piano at 3. So I came here. My grandmother said I'd be up in my high chair and I would dance. Now, anybody that knows me knows I cannot sit still hardly. I still have the bug. I'm always dancing. I just came here like that. But of course, my uncle was a recording artist. So there was always music in our house. So that's what while my mother was carrying me, that's what I was being exposed to was, these brilliant artists coming in and out of my grandmother's home. So, there you have it. But what was interesting is early on, I said we played school. The kids in the neighborhood, we would play school. And I loved books. And my friends would be so mad at me because when it was my time to play school, they had to learn stuff. And they were like, no, it's supposed to be playing. And they were like, no, you got to learn. And look at me. I love to teach. So I came here doing that. The other ones that I played entertaining. My family will tell you they wanted me to put on those shows. I was the dancer and the musician, and they loved it. My cousin reminded me recently. So we always knew you were putting on a show. And the other thing that I played was business. And we had a set of legal code books in the house. So like at 6 and 7 years old, I would just pull a book off the shelf and sit down and start reading through it. Now, some of the stuff I didn't always know exactly what I was reading, but the point of the matter was curious. And unbeknownst to me was my father's mother was one of the first Black women attorneys in the state of California, but she didn't like practicing law, so she became a teacher. By the time I was born, I didn't know anything about her legal history. I only knew my grandmother as a teacher. So it's not by chance the interest that I would have these lifelong interests, as well as have these connections to my family members who had these special gifts and talents and experiences. And so, because we're getting down to the last few minutes of the show, and I really think that the 2 questions that we talked about, I think Dr. Thyonne really set us off on the right path by raising the original question about, is it just you think about money and suddenly it manifests? Well, I think she laid an amazing foundation in explaining why that is not enough. You have to do a little more than that. And then I believe that the question regarding being unemployed and without income, I feel like that is a very important question. And that's why I wanted to spend so much time on that question and really kind of unpack the question and the importance of the mindset. Because I know this and I know this like I know my name. Wherever you are, if you stop for a moment and write something that you are thankful for. And I know sometimes it can be so dark. It can be so dark that all you can think of is, I'm just thankful that I got up today. Okay, that's good. That's day number 1. But if you do it again on day number 2, maybe day number 2, you'll have 2 things on that list that you can honestly feel thankful for. Look, you may not be able to come up, but make it. Create 10 things that you think you're thankful for. Just and keep looking at the list until you start believing that you're thankful for those things. Add 50 things on the list. By the time you're done with that first week, you need to have 100 things on your list that you're thankful for. 100. Yes, and you can do it. And I promise you, if you just do this exercise for 30 days, it won't even take 30 days before you'll begin to see the shifts in what you're manifesting. It won't take 30 days. You just get started doing it. Get started doing it. And you will begin to see the shifts in your life. People will call you. People will talk, like your whole disposition will change such that you will begin to be a magnet the things that you really want. And so there is a saying that people say, fake it till you make it. If that's what it takes to silence the chatter in your head then absolutely fake it until you make it. But I want you to be diligent with changing your thoughts to what you are thankful for. And I promise you with everything, on everything, that you will begin to see a shift. So it's Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. Money and Mindset. I hope you'll return next week. We'll be back on Monday. Next week is going to be interesting. We're going to have a couple guests as well. So we'll tell you about all that on Monday. I want to wish you an amazing weekend and see you next week. Signing out, Dr. Money.